Yo, what's up guys, it's your boy Sami here. Today we are gonna see, what if Naruto was the human among devils, movie 2, hope you'll enjoy this video. So before we start please subscribe to our channel, and like this video. So let's get into the video. What am I doing here again? Naruto asked, as he stood in the middle of the garden surrounded by tall walls, and here he was standing right in front of the blonde boy from Ryo's period. Kiba was his name, and the boy was holding his sword in his hand, and a small smile on his face. Naruto had been challenged to a duel by this guy, who wanted to see how good Naruto was with a sword, and see the difference in their skill. The others were watching from the sidelines, hoping to gain some sort of insight on Naruto's skill level with a sword. In Naruto's right hand, he was right-handed, and was a simple kunai. He didn't need a long sword to prove that he was good with a blade. He held his kunai like a sword, showing that he wasn't taking this very seriously by not holding it how he usually held it in a reverse grip. Not that they all knew that, of course. To them, this was more than likely his usual position. I just wanted to test myself, nothing more. I need to be strong, and who else to compare myself to than you? Yudo asked in a way that he wasn't actually asking anything, more like stating it. He held in his hands a sword with an orange blade, totally awesome, and a red handle. The blade lit a flame, and Yudo sped off at Naruto with some pretty impressive speed for a boy like him. Naruto took that, as the boys started to duel, and Naruto had zero trouble without keeping up with the boy's speed in the slightest. Yes, the boy was fast, but just a little faster was when he was around 13 years old using a little chakra from Kurama. That would have sounded like an insult, were not Naruto pretty damn blindingly fast when he was young, and using his pal's chakra. Heck, when he was young he had the raw speed to outrun a damn train if he wanted to do it. He could even do it while carrying somebody, and his speed had only increased over the years. When he was 16 he had adapted to paying attention, and dodging things that literally went faster than lighting, and since Kagaya had teleportation powers, which neared the speed of light itself, he had some pretty damn good reflexes. This boy was fast by normal human standards. Naruto simply sidestepped the boy, and knocked his elbow in the back of the boy's head before Yudo could react. Yudo was knocked down into the ground, and sent skidding across the ground, while Naruto took a step back into the position he had been standing in before. His back facing Yudo, showing that Naruto was confident enough that even if Yudo attacked him from behind he couldn't do anything. Naruto believed that being able to show your back to your opponent was only foolish if your opponent was fast enough to actually attack you, while your back was turned. This was fast, but not as fast as lightning like Air the third Raikage, and Naruto dodged both of them. One of which only used Sage Mode instead of Kurama's chakra, the other of which was 2 inches away from his face when he started to dodge. Naruto could react to this boy the second he even took a single step towards him. Naruto snapped his foot back, and snapped a piece of metal that erupted from the ground, and tried to stab him in the back without even looking. You're going to have to try harder. I can break Senjutsu enhanced rock just by flexing, and that is harder than steel. Naruto said truthfully, remembering when one of Nagato's pain bodies had him in a headlock when he turned the body into a Senjutsu toadstone statue. Naruto had flexed, and shattered the rock arms holding him in place, without even being in Sage Mode when he had been doing it. Naruto's base strength was strong enough to break steel with each relative, so little swords couldn't really do much to him, when he could just break them. You keep using that word, Yudo whispered to himself, as he heard Naruto use Senjutsu, as a word again. He summoned a sword with a blade of ice in his other hand, before he summoned a third sword in his mouth. He blurred towards Naruto, only for Naruto to take a step back without looking at him, and crash his elbow into Yudo's nose while breaking through his guard, and dodging all 3 swords. Blood shot out of the younger boy's nose, as he was sent flying back, and rolling across the ground, getting himself dirty. Don't worry, I won't hurt him too much, Naruto said when he heard the worried sound of Ryo's gasping. He sensed something familiar about this boy, something that reminded him of Sasuke in a way. How generous of you, Yudo said truthfully, already knowing that he was outclassed by the man in front of him, who still had his back turned to him. Hey bastard, tell me something. Is the reason you are trying to get stronger, because you seek revenge? Naruto asked loudly, and Yudo froze, and looked at Naruto's back in shock. Yudo started, before being rudely interrupted. I have met a person that was consumed by revenge. My best friend's big brother killed their entire clan in one night, including their mother and father. He was driven by hatred for most of his life, and rejected the idea of friendship. Truthfully, I was his only real friend, but revenge consumed him, and he tried to kill me. He managed to kill his brother, only to learn his brother was acting under orders, and refused to kill his little brother, so he turned his hatred against the entire village that we lived in for not knowing of his brother's sacrifice. Is your story something similar? Naruto questioned loudly enough, their short brawl having given him more than he needed to know about the boy. Naruto was an amazingly strong warrior, and because of that he could learn what was in somebody's heart by fighting them. So what if it is? My need for revenge will not be denied, Yudo said with a dark look to his face, and dark aura leaking from his body. Will you abandon your friends and loved ones for revenge? Will you leave them to die, or kill them if it helps you get your revenge? Naruto asked with a raised eyebrow, wondering what the boy's answer would be. No, but I have to destroy those swords. I lost, never mind. Yudo started, before he realized what he was going to say, and shut himself up before he could tell this stranger his life story. Naruto frowned a little, and started to turn around, seeing the sad looks on the faces of this boy's friends. Let me tell you something, bastard, you are the weakest piece of shit on the planet. Naruto said plainly and clearly, and Yudo's fury burned, as he charged at Naruto with his sword already in motion. Naruto caught the blade with his thumb and index finger by pinching it, before he kneed Yudo in the stomach, and knocked him off his feet, and the wind out of his lungs. The boy collapsed on the ground, and actually threw up his breakfast from the extremely strong blow to his stomach. Take it back. Yudo coughed out, as he glared at Naruto. Nope, people that seek revenge are weak pieces of shit. You will never be truly strong, no matter how powerful you get, if your reason for getting strong is revenge. Man, woman, demon, or gods, it doesn't matter who you are, but you are only truly strong when you fight to protect something precious to you. Loved ones, goals, dreams, or your home. As long as you are protecting something you love, you will always be stronger than you would be fueled by hate. Naruto said wisely, showing that even though he was an idiot, he was still a sage. He had always been good at reminding people why he had gotten to where he was today. He had only truly started to grow strong when he was thinking of protecting something. Now, this hate-filled boy needed to learn a hard lesson. You expect me to let it go? Yudo asked weakly, because at that moment Naruto started to let a small amount of his chakra out of his body. Yes, revenge will get you empty satisfaction in the end. After you complete your revenge, then you lose your goal. That is it, there is nowhere else to go after that. My own master was killed, and I wanted revenge. You know what though, I forgave his killer. I forgave him for killing my master, who was my godfather, as well. This man that I loved dearly like a member of my family, murdered in cold blood by one of his students, I forgave that student. Naruto lectured, and Yudo looked up at Naruto, who saw the look of confusion in Yudo's eyes. But you needed to get revenge. He killed something precious to you. Yudo tried to reason with Naruto. When I was born, my parents were murdered by a beast that was released by a man. Not only did I forgive and befriend that beast, but I also forgave that man who released the beast that killed my parents and made me into a hated person. My parents, my godfather, they wouldn't have wanted me to go about seeking revenge. They're like that, and neither am I, Naruto said with a shrug of his shoulders, as he put his kunai up, not even having used it in the entire short spar. The difference between them was just far too great for them for Yudo to have lasted very long, even if Naruto wasn't serious. You're really weird. Yudo finally said, as he looked up at Naruto, who looked down at him. You're still going to seek revenge, just remember what I said. It might not mean much coming from a stranger like me, but if you seek revenge, people will seek revenge against you in turn. Then you may die, and your friends will seek revenge for you. Then they may be killed, all because of your urge for revenge. Naruto told the boy, before he turned around, and started to head towards the kitchen again. Hey, why do you keep calling me bastard? Yudo asked after a moment. Because you are a total pretty boy, revenge-seeking, bastard of a bastard with bastard cream filling, and topped with bastard sprinkles, with a side of bastard juice. You pretty boy types are all bastards, and your revenge-seeking pretty boys are even worse. Naruto declared with a finger pointed at Yudo, who looked at Naruto with his jaw hanging down. He was actually stunned by Naruto's words, while Naruto crossed his arms, and started to walk away. Seriously, it was like pretty boys were the ones that always had some deep desire for revenge. First Sasuke, and now this guy. It was like Naruto was cursed to meet up with revenge-seeking, pretty boy bastards. I can't tell if you are a blithering idiot or a secret genius. Yudo said out loud by accident, and Naruto shrugged. He wasn't that bothered, since he called himself an idiot all the time. He would rather remain an idiot forever than stray from who he was. It was something that came with being himself. If he was an idiot, then he was a proud idiot. If he was a powerful idiot, then he was a proud and powerful idiot. If he was a failure, then he was a proud failure. Naruto closed his eyes, and hissed sharply, as if he had been physically struck when he remembered something. He remembered the person that had told him that he was a proud failure if he was a failure. Somebody that truly loved him, and would be heartbroken if she knew about him being stuck in this place. Naruto closed his eyes, and took a deep breath, calming himself, as he tried to get into the kitchen, and find something that would fill his stomach. Don't worry about it, Naruto, I am sure that you can find a nice kitten here to get with. The silky voice of Madatabi said from within his mind. Kitten? Foolish two tails. Naruto needs a real vixen, not some immature kitten. Kurama shouted loudly in Naruto's mind, while Naruto groaned. That with the big-breasted girl that plays with lightning, that cunt looks like she would be a good fuck. The insane Shukaku shouted out loudest of all. Naruto groaned, and held his head in annoyance, the downside of being able to hear them, and that apparently Shukaku found out that he was only being blocked out when he was in his area of Naruto's mind. Shut the hell up, one tail. Naruto was my Jinchuriki first, so I get the most say. Kurama declared, and Naruto felt like bashing his head against the wall. He was pretty damn sure he could sort out his own romantic life. No you can't, you dumbass didn't know the Hyuga girl liked you until she almost died for you. You also didn't know you were agreeing to fuck the, and you didn't notice all those other girls that fell in love with you over the years. You even agreed to a marriage contract without paying much attention to it. Kurama said, insulting Naruto at the same time, as he was helping him. How the what now? I agreed to a what, and when? Naruto mentally asked with wide eyes. The sad part is that your mind was way far out there when you agreed to it when you were more focused on eating and sleeping. Daiuki butted it out of nowhere, and Naruto tried to remember everything that had been said a few days before, when he agreed to something that he hadn't been paying much attention to, or was it that he just didn't give two shits about anything at that moment? Shit. Naruto shouted loudly, as he turned the corner, and smashed against something very small, much smaller than him. Naruto ended up tripping over the thing that he had knocked over, but he caught himself, and realized that it was that white-haired girl that he had seen the other day. She was knocked over, and her skirt was flipped up to show tight green panties with a yellow bow on the front. The girl looked up at him with a frown for a moment, before her eyes widened, as she stood up with her eyes still slightly widened. The girl managed to say, before she turned tail, and started to try, and escape away from him rather quickly. Naruto looked at her, and he heard a purr from Matatabi. Now that is a fine piece of ass. Not a single shred of unneeded fat on her, a sleek body type that looks oh so flexible. A thin waist, and those cat-like looks about her. Look how tight that body is. Such a fine girl. Matabi said, as she looked at the girl through Naruto's eyes, and he groaned, and actually smashed his face against the wall. Am I the only sane one? Did you see the rack of the black-haired slut? Shukaku shouted, and Naruto trained himself again. Red hair boy, go with the red hair. I want to see you dominate a red-haired bitch. Kurama shouted his own reasons, and Naruto smashed his face against the wall again. I think he should find a stronger woman to bear him children. Jayuki started slowly, not shouting for once. Naruto trained himself, and busted up the wall again, knowing that it would have to be fixed again. I think the submissive type of girl would be best. Isobu's soft voice called out, though it sounded a bit muffled out. Submissive? What sort of bullshit are you spouting? The guy needs a lucky girl with a happy attitude. Chimei buzzed out loudly, and Naruto smashed his face deeper into the wall. A strong man needs a good woman to humble him. I place my hat into this for the dominant type. Seiken said lightly, and Naruto sighed in annoyance, and decided that it was way too much trouble. Now the tailed beasts were arguing about what type of girl that he should get with. It was annoying, but it was also nice that they were thinking up types of girls to hook him up with. Why settle for one? Go the harem route, get 'em all. Sun said, and Naruto smashed his head against the wall again. Great, are you guys going to always argue about what kind of girl I should get with? Naruto asked, wondering what kind of answer he was going to get. Yes, was the in-sync answer of all of the tailed beast inside of him. Naruto's face palmed to himself, and he knew something at that moment. He was going to have a headache by the end of the day. Damn, you are all disappointing. Naruto commented dryly, as he looked at the 4 teams around him, all on the ground with various bruises on their bodies. Naruto hadn't even had to really try against them to put them down, nor did he had to move from his spot. They all had glaring weaknesses that could be easily exploited, and none of them had any real battle experience. Ria's Gremory was a long-distance combat type, but get her in close, and get around her power of destruction, and she was only slightly better than the average human. She was underwhelming in the speed and strength department, and her durability wasn't as great as he would have thought it was either. As it turned out, having a lot of magical power did not translate to being super fast or super strong or even super durable. All it meant was that their magic attacks were stronger, and that they could use more magical attacks. Ryu's power of destruction was a dangerous skill, sure, but she wasn't anything special without it. He had used 3 very light punches against her, having lightened it up to the level that he had when he was 12 years old. If she were ever to get attacked by somebody that could brush off her magic, then she was fucked up the ass sideways. It was as simple as that. Magical power didn't translate to increases in speed or strength. The girl had the most basic hand-to-hand abilities, and they had to be used in combination with her power to be effective. Since magic was a purely spiritual power with very little in the way of physical energy, they couldn't use it to enhance their bodies without using a spell that was designed for the purpose of increasing their strength and speed. Without her magic, Rias was a weakling. He likened her to a genin that could spam B-rank jutsu at a whim. Destructive, yes, but against any opponent with more skill than her she was doomed to lose. Ikeno Himejima was the most rounded fighter, the real strongest of their little group. While she was a long-distance fighter with her lightning and other elemental magic, she was still stronger and faster than her king Rias. She had more raw magical energy than Rias that was only enhanced by her position as queen, and her body was enhanced to be more durable than the average person, with more speed and strength. Though she still lacked the real experience needed to use her power to the fullest, though she had enhancements, she still wasn't that impressive. Her biggest weakness was her reaction time, and she couldn't move at her fastest, since her eyes couldn't keep up with her own speed. She had to slow herself down to prevent her from running into something, and ruining the flow she would build up in battle. The only reason she would even lose to Rias was that Rias had the bullshit power of destruction, but in any other area of fighting she was much better than Rias. Out of everyone, she had the best chance of beating him when he was 13 years old. He said 13, because when he was 13, he had been fighting people that would have destroyed these guys. Him with a single tail of the version 1 cloak could have taken them all down just from the corrosive power, speed, strength, and technique boost that came with the cloak. The version 1 cloak was pure chakra that was always being refilled, so the power of destruction was useless, since it regenerated just as fast as it was destroyed. Udokiba, he was fast and flexible, and had a very good handle on his sacred gear and abilities with the blade. Yet, he was the weakest of the group simply because he had very human levels of durability. He didn't have enhanced durability to go with his speed, and he didn't have enhanced strength to handle bigger swords. Bigger swords slowed him down to very human levels, making him the weakest of the group when he tried to be the strongest. He was faster than Rias, and even Naruto himself when he had been 12 without Kurama's chakra, but he wasn't that impressive either. Naruto already knew his weaknesses. Take out his swords or get him angry, and Yudo would fall rather quickly. Finally, the girl Kaneko told you she had greatly enhanced strength and defensive skin, but she was without a doubt the slowest of the group. She was even slower than Rias, and her abilities with magic were the weakest of the group. She had a very flexible body though, and her reflexes were the best of the group. That made up for her lack of speed kind of. She was short though, she was lacking in reach. She needed to make great use of her skills in hand-to-hand combat. Out of everyone in the group, she was the most skilled in pure hand-to-hand combat, but her body's natural limitations stood in the way of that skill. If she went up against an equal that was taller than her, then she would lose. Her strength allowed her to lift even large animals and trees with ease, but her punching strength wasn't as great as some of the people that Naruto had seen. His own teammate Sakura had managed to have great strength that she could cause earthquakes and shatter small mountains with only a single punch if she wanted to. Sakura had the same speed problem as Kaneko, but his friend Sakura had been taller than Kaneko, so her body had been much more prepared for her style of fighting. Not to mention that despite being a medic, Sakura had years of training and fighting experience with Tsunade Senju of the Sannin. She had made it to Chunin after all, and with her healing skills combined with her strength, even Sakura could have taken out this entire peerage on her own. It was sad actually, the weakest member of Team 7 could have utterly destroyed Rias and her peerage without breaking a sweat. Ria's power of destruction would have never hit the faster Sakura, nor would Akeno's punches, kicks, or magic. Yudo would never have managed to hit her thanks to her reflexes, and one hit from Sakura would have killed the boy, if she were to be serious with her punches. Kaneko was the only one that would put up a challenge, but her height and reach would have made even her easy pickings for the weakest link in Team 7. Even if they did land a hit on Sakura, Sakura could have healed herself right back into top condition with ease. He didn't know what qualified as strong in this world, or who they were comparing their strength to, but he was vastly disappointed in these people. They seemed to think that their magical strength was superior to physical strength, and that just because you could bust up a mountain that you could tank getting hit by a mountain destroying punch that came at you from an opponent so much faster than you. It was seriously disappointing that Naruto was pretty damn sure he wasn't going to be getting a good fight. He had been told stories about the 13 Longinus, sacred gears with the potential to slay a god in the right hands. Naruto almost busted a gut when he heard that. The only two that seemed even slightly useful seemed to be the divine dividing and the boosted gear, but even those two seemed to only be any good when the user could handle one. If the user lacked the stamina or magical power to properly use those sacred gears, they would only be an issue. Who cares if you had the power to slay a god, when you could only use that power for 3 seconds, because you were using up too much stamina. Naruto had fought for about a week straight using his full power the entire time, never taking even so much as a break to eat or sleep. He had been fighting a dimension-busting bitch the entire time too, so even these Longinus users seemed like they wouldn't be a good fight. Divine dividing cut the power of the opponent in half once every 10 seconds, if the user could touch the opponent, and even then when they added that power to themselves, they could only add so much of the power before they lost control over it, and couldn't add any more. Naruto was pretty sure that somebody could divide his power all day long, but it still wouldn't make a difference. To get close enough to divide his power also meant that it placed them in Naruto's range of attack. By the time the user divided his power once, they would already have a face full of lava or be in range for once of his instant kill attacks that he could use with a single hand. The boosted gear was the same, it could double the user's power every 10 seconds, but for every time they doubled that power, they doubled the amount of stamina that it would take to use the gear. Every time they doubled, they cut the amount of stamina using that power would take, as well. Of course, this was a better thing than divine dividing, because at least the user had to train their stamina to get that much stronger, and handle the power better. Divine dividing used up pure magical power to work, with only a little stamina. Sorry for not meeting your expectations. Ryu's bit out harshly through ragged breaths, with groans coming from the other members of her peerage. Naruto had wanted to spar with them so that he could get to know them better, but that hadn't been his spar. That had been a one-sided fight the entire time, and he didn't even need to step away from where he had been standing. None of them had landed a hit on him, even when working together. You all need to start some major training. Cherry girl, you need some hand-to-hand combat training ASAP. You completely suck at that. Sedeno, you need to work on your reflexes, they hold you back. Bastard, you need to work on taking a punch better. Kaneko, there really isn't much you can do about being short. I suggest you start learning monkey martial arts, since those focus on a small opponent fighting a larger one. Naruto said with a shrug, while everyone looked at Kaneko with a twitching eye. He would have given her a nickname, but he couldn't for the life of him think of one. Call her Sexy Elytron, since she is a sexy Elytron. Madit Abi suggested, and was quickly ignored by Naruto, who blushed only lightly. Sexy Elytron, what have I been missing? Kakuo popped out, with the largely feminine voice of the horse-like tailed beast, chiming in for the first time. Where the fuck were you earlier when we were all arguing over what kind of girl he should fuck? Shikaku shouted at Kakuo from inside of Naruto's mind, with him slamming his head into the concrete road they were on in annoyance, and shattering the ground under him much to the shock of Ryu's and her peerage. I was taking a run. You have a really large and empty mind, Naruto. Your mindscape stretched one for millions of miles. It was a nice run. Now what is this about a pairing? Kakuo asked, and he asked her. Her tone took on a more questioning edge to it. We are bored and want to see him fuck somebody, but the kid can't decide. Son thinks he should just go mass breeder and fuck everything that is beautiful and has a cunt. Jayuki said, and a loud grunt showed that Son heard that comment. Not everything, but listening to you idiots argue over your girl is so annoying that the harem route is easier than listening to a bunch of children arguing, even though none of you have been in a relationship. Son's loud voice said with clear annoyance, and there was a pause before Kakuo broke the silence. Really? All that rumbling on the ground was about a pairing? Kakuo asked, and the loudest and most booming voice of all spoke next. I don't give a shit about a pairing, I just want Naruto to have rough sex with a redhead. If he has rough sex with a redhead, then it is like I am getting revenge on redheads. I fucking hate redheads. Kurama boomed loudly, with Naruto twitching in annoyance. Yo, son of a red-haired woman right here. Naruto reminded them mentally, and Kurama scoffed. Son of the same redhead that had me chained to a floating ball with rods stabbed into me. At least fucking Mito only chained me to the ground, and had a single rob through my neck. Your mother was a sadistic cunt. Kurama explained, with Naruto twitching in annoyance for a moment. Kurama was lucky they were friends, or else Naruto would go into his head, and personally kick Kurama's ass. Listen Naruto, your best option is to find a fun-loving girl that can match your levels of excitement, but is strong enough to not be broken, if you stop holding back your presence, and have the stamina to last against you in bed. Kakuo explained most rationally, being one of the only two that spoke rationally about this subject. Thank you Kakuo. Finally, somebody who gets it. Damn, and I was wondering why aren't you people going to get your bruises healed? Naruto questioned when he saw the four people around him staring up at him in confusion, and in shock that he suddenly started to shout like that. Who are you talking to? Yudo asked with a raised eyebrow. The voices in my head that want me to get laid. Hey, do any of you know a hyperactive girl with tons of stamina, and a lot of raw power that is completely crazy? Naruto asked, going with Kakuo's suggestion. They all looked at him with a stupefied joint expression on all of their faces. Even the neutral Kaneko was going over everything that was wrong with that sentence. What kind of person asks something like that? Lord Naruto, the four great Satans are here to speak with you. They are waiting for you in the main hall. One of the servants of the mansion said to Naruto, who grinned and punched a fist to his hand. He had been waiting to meet with four of the strongest people in the underworld for some time now. He wanted to see what these leaders were like, not only that, but he had to admit to wanting to get one of them to tell him how to get to the human world or one of the other interesting places he hadn't seen. Awesome, well, see you people later. Naruto said, as he ran off while the four young devils all groaned and started to stand up. He had some people to meet. The four great Satans, the greatest devils of the underworld, and each considered the strongest devils to exist. Sadly, there were also quirky people that didn't like to be kept waiting, and when Naruto took 3 whole hours after being informed of the fact that they were there, 2 of the 4 great Satans decided that they were sick of waiting, and decided to leave. Only 2 of the 4 great Satans were still standing, and waiting, one of which looked like she was going to blow off the gasket. The first, and leader of the Satans, was none other than Sai CGS Lucifer, formerly known as Surzich's Gremory, the older brother of Ria's Gremory, and who looked like an older version of a male version of Ria's, wearing fancy black and golden armor with a white suit on under it. He was a rather handsome man anyway, and managed to have enough strength to brag about. That was one of the reasons why he was here to meet this Naruto Uzumaki, to see what the boy was like, and see what kind of threat he posed. His wife Grafia had told him that the boy was an idiot of the highest order, but was also able to show very high thinking ability when he had to show it. With a few words the boy could turn hate into neutrality, such as the young Yudo when Naruto fell, but erase the boy's desire for revenge from what he had heard. That alone was a skill that he couldn't remember having seen before. The other Satan that was still in the room, waiting for Naruto eagerly, and with an annoyed face was Seraphol Leviathan, the only female Satan, and a woman that was considered to be the strongest female in the underworld. She was also young, looking, female with long black hair that she kept up in two side ponytails. Her bangs in the middle of her forehead, and she was very pale-skinned. She was of a short stature, not being very much taller than 5 feet tall, and she had a slim and slender figure on her almost childlike body. She was very youthful in appearance. Even though she looked childish, she had larger than average breasts. Her breasts weren't the size of Ria's of course, but she was bigger than normal. She had light blue, with a tint of green, eyes that shined with childish joy. She wore clothes though that couldn't even slightly be considered devilish. She wore a small pink top that didn't cover her stomach completely with a small white shoulder cape. She had a small necklace with a blue orb and yellow star in it. She wore long black gloves with no fingers on them with white cuffs hanging on her wrists with a golden cross attaching them. She had on a tiny mini skirt colored pink with white and pink cloth on each side of the skirt, held up by a black belt with pure golden outlining and designs. Her skirt flipped a little to show pure white, small, panties on them. She covered much of her legs with thigh-high black socks with pink stripes going down it, and shin-high black boots with a pink bow on the front. On top of her head was a bright pink beret with white wings on each side. In her hands was a bright pink magical wand with a pink circle with a yellow star in it at the end, and little devil wings just under the circle. I can stand the waiting. I so want to meet this guy, he sounds just perfect. Look at this picture Surzich's tan. Seraphol shouted, as she showed Surzich's the picture of Naruto that Grafia had given them, the picture that she had shown Surzich's a couple hundred times already. It was a picture of a shirtless Naruto sleeping while scratching his stomach. Yes, I know, he is just your type, Surzich said with a roll of his eyes. It had been love at first picture, with Naruto's unique looks attracting the eyes of the most powerful female in the underworld. She had been enraptured by the boy's whisker marks at first, and the bright blonde hair that shouldn't be normally possible in that shade. The boy was short for his age, and very well built for a teen. His sleeping posture was horrible, suggesting he was a laid-back and improper person that didn't give a shit about what others thought. He had unruly spiky hair, something that appealed to the rebel inside of Seraphol deeply. He was wearing a bright shade of orange pants, showing that the boy loved to be in the spotlight and draw attention to himself. Then there were the accounts of the boy's presumed and shown strength. The boy had subdued the second strongest female in the underworld with just hand-to-hand combat, and did it in seconds before she could even respond. The boy was not only fast, but strong enough to completely ignore his wife's heart and queen's skin, and give her a wicked shiner that the woman had to manually heal. The boy was strong enough that he had defeated the person, a woman he had heard, that had killed the strongest being with a single shot, making this human boy the strongest being in existence. Surzich found it freaking hilarious that the strongest person was a teenage boy that was said to have the attention span of a fly, but the power exceeding that of a god. He was looking forward to meeting this boy, and so was Seraphol. That's my type, like perfectly my type. I think I may have fallen for somebody other than Sotan, Seraphol claimed boldly, with Surzich raising an eyebrow. Seraphol was a major, much like himself, so hearing that was shocking. All from a picture? Surzich asked, and Seraphol gave him a blissful look. Love works in mysterious ways. It doesn't look like your sister wants him, I want him, Seraphol said with a grin on her face. She wanted Naruto, so she was going to get Naruto. Go for it then. I am afraid that this boy might kill Ria's tan in bed by accident. I was against this entire idea of getting the strongest existence with Ria's tan, nothing against the boy, but Ria's isn't strong enough to handle this, Surzich said with a shiver at the thought of Ria's dying in such a horrible pleasurable way. There was a loud crashing sound, before they saw a blonde-haired blue fall to the ground at their feet after rolling across the ground, the large broken door completely off its hinges. The boy looked just like the pictures, meaning that this was the very same Naruto they were planning on meeting. Yo, I got lost, Naruto stated, as he looked at the people in front of him. A handsome male, and a freaking stunning girl that seems to be about his age. Fuck the girl, Shukaku stated in Naruto's mind. Bang her brains out, she is lean. Madatabi agreed with the purr. Let her bang you. Isobu started softly, with a small perverse giggle. Make her yours, Sun stated gruffly. Well, speak of the devil, that girl is just your type. Kakuo started with a surprised tone, having spoken of this kind of girl not seconds ago. She seems like she fits the dom and sub-role easily. Get her, tiger, Seiken agreed with the others. Use her, and join the Mile High Club. You can summon me, and fuck on my back, Chimei said with a chipper tone. Bang that bitch, Jayuki agreed with everyone else. Marry this girl, but make the red-haired cunt your slave. Kurama started with an annoyed tone. The fuck? The one time you all agree on a girl, it has to be a girl I have never met before. You have to be the worst relationship advisors that live in my head to ever exist. How am I supposed to pick a girl when all of you think of is sex? Naruto shouted out, as he stood up, getting shocked and surprised looks from Seraful and Surzich's respectively. The two of them were concerned about the voices in his head though. Sex is awesome, and we feel it when our Jinchuriki has sex. All of the tailed beasts answered in unison. You selfish bastards, I don't care who I marry, but at least take my love life half seriously. It is like you only want me to get paired up so you get the satisfaction of seeing me bang a beauty. Naruto shouted out, as he pointed at his face, since they could see through his eyes, and lectured the tailed beasts. We are girls. Kakuo and Natatabi started, with Naruto almost choking on air in surprise when he heard that Kakuo was a girl. He just thought the dolphin horse sounded, and acted like a girl. Hey, you earned yourself a beautiful girl with what you did for your world. We all just want you to satisfy your deepest cravings, and what better way than something that pleases all of us? Jayuki told Naruto with an honest tone. Are you okay? Surzich's asked Naruto, but before he could answer Seraful grabbed Naruto's hands with her own, and pulled him so close that their noses were actually touching. Are there voices in your head telling you who you should be paired off with, and what you should do with them to make things more fun? Because that would be so cool. Seraful asked with stars in her eyes. Naruto blinked for a moment before he looked into the girl's eyes. Yeah? Naruto questioned, before he was lifted up over the girl's shoulder, as she started to walk towards the broken door with Naruto. Surzich's hand set up a wedding. Leviathan is getting married to her soulmate. Seraful shouted, with Nero blinking at what was going on. Did he just escape his engagement to Ria's only to be engaged to this girl? What the fuck? Soulmate, since when are we soulmates? What the hell is a soulmate actually? Naruto asked, not even knowing what the term soulmate meant. Seraful actually stopped and set Naruto back down on the ground before she grinned at him and gave him a thumbs up. Don't worry about it, just prepare your body and leave everything to me. Leviathan is going to take good care of you. All you need to know is that I want you, and I am calling dibs on you. Seraful said, as she winked and sparkled around her for a few seconds, as the bubbly, hyperactive girl showed complete and utter confidence in the fact that she was getting married. Most people believe that you needed to get to know somebody before falling in love. Well, Seraful had tried getting to know people without feeling anything for them, either physically or emotionally. Now that she felt something on both levels, she was going to scoop up her prize before she wasted another moment. Dibs? Naruto asked, still not getting the term. Dibs, it means that I called you, so I get to keep you. Unless of course you don't want to marry me. Seraful asked with large teary eyes that called out to Naruto, who actually took a step back in shock. She has a good amount of power in her Naruto, she might be one of the few people that can handle you not repressing your power. Kurama actually stated, and Naruto looked down at that. It was true, if Rias was a high-class devil, and could barely handle him not suppressing his power, then human girls were out, and even other high-class devils were out. His options were actually very limited for any true romance that went beyond physical. I don't have a choice in this, do I not, without killing all of you, that is? Naruto questioned, and both of the Satans nodded. Nopo, I forgot to tell you my name. I'm Seraful Leviathan, and that is Surzich's Lucifer. Now let's go get married. Seraful said, as she grabbed Naruto, lifted him up again, before she started to run full speed down the halls. Naruto could only wonder one thing. Did all devils have some sort of weird quirk? There was no marriage ceremony, there was no big wedding either. The marriage of Naruto Uzumaki and Seraful Leviathan had been an easy and rather simple affair. They had each signed a piece of paper showing that they were for all purposes legally married. Since Leviathan was her title though, neither of them had a change in last name that would show that they were married. Naruto wasn't the Leviathan, so he couldn't take that as his last name, and Seraful was the Leviathan, so that had to remain her last name. He was still Naruto Uzumaki, and she was still Seraful Leviathan, and they were legally married. Of course, now there was going to be a huge party to celebrate the newest power couple of the underworld. The strongest existence, and the most powerful female devil getting married, even though Naruto's name wasn't known by people, and they only knew his title, was something that everyone wanted to celebrate. The union of two of the strongest people alive was something that would ensure the highest of pedigrees for whatever child they might or might not have. The servants of both the Leviathan and Lucifer were rushing around getting the party ready with only a moment's notice. The party was actually taking place in a neutral area where a mysterious castle made of ice had sprouted out of nothing. By nothing, Naruto meant that Seraful had created a castle of ice to make everything that much more amusing for herself. She was like him in the fact that she liked to show off her power in any possible way given to her. She was a natural attention whore, whore not being an insult, just as she sought attention like a whore sought paid sex, only she didn't stop when she got the attention she wanted. Naruto was sitting next to Seraphil on a shared throne of ice, with her still in her magical girl costume that she apparently had a few dozen copies of. Even now she was looking over everything with a large smile on her face, while randomly spinning her wand around and drawing attention to herself. Naruto himself was stuck wearing a dark orange suit. He had to have his orange, and though people had attempted to tame his hair, it had refused every single attempt to be tamed. Underneath his orange suit he was wearing a black button-up shirt and a bright orange tie. Naruto's forehead was showing, also showing the circle symbol with multiple circle symbols inside of it. Naruto didn't have the Rinnegan like Sasuke had, but he did have a few of the powers of the Rinnegan that were needed to seal things away. The symbol on his forehead showed that he was the true successor to the Sage of Six Paths, though without a Sharingan Naruto never had the chance to evolve it to a Rinnegan. Just like Asura before him when Asura was granted the Sage of Six Paths chakra, Naruto hadn't developed the Rinnegan either. He just gained the Rinnegan symbol on his forehead. It was how Naruto had still retained the ability to seal away Kagaya without Sasuke, since Sasuke had given to Naruto the other half of the Sage of Six Paths chakra, thus showing that Naruto had attained greater strength than the Sage. After all, when Naruto had all of the Sage's chakra inside of him, as his own chakra, all 9 of the tailed beasts in their full forms, his own powerful chakra, Sage mode, and the chakra he inherited from Asura, he had almost reached the level that Kagaya was. But Kagaya sealed away, Naruto was truly the strongest being in existence. Seraphil being the strongest female devil, and being able to not even notice his aura, made it so that she was one of the few people that he had the option of being with. Humans, as he had heard from others, were a weak-willed species here, with many not having natural defenses against energy. He couldn't have a human bride anymore, and most devils weren't strong enough to be his bride. He was lucky that Seraphil was such a hyper and crazy girl that she went for what she wanted to. Oh. Look, they're even making a big statue of us. Hey, be sure to get my hat just right. Seraphil shouted out, as she winked, and a star of energy appeared around her for a second. Naruto chuckled to himself, before he crossed his fingers, and created a small army of 1,000 shadow clones in front of him, before he pointed at them. You guys go help out, as well, just do what people tell you to do. Naruto said with a shrug of his shoulders, and the clones all started to rush to help people out. The expected turnout for people showing up was in the hundreds if not thousands. After all, the Leviathan having a party to celebrate her marriage to the strongest existence is something that would be a widespread thing. People would show up even with only a moment's notice, something that amazed Naruto, considering 2 people showed up to his last birthday party. Not his last birthday, but the one before that. His last birthday sucked, since he had been fighting against Kagaya. You are like a one-person harem. Seraphil said with wide eyes, as she looked at the clones, getting Naruto to choke on air at hearing her words. He looked at her in shock, and saw her blushing with her eyes staring dully at the ceiling, like she was thinking of the possibilities. She smiled, and wrapped herself with a hug, before she pushed him in the shoulder. That Narutan, our first night needs to be just our bodies wrapped up in the sexy dance of hot sweaty joy. Seraphil lectured, with Naruto looking at her with a raised eyebrow. Either she wasn't as pure as she acted, or she only acted like a child most of the time, because it was fun that or she just never had a reason to show her perverse side. So a lot of people are coming? Naruto asked with a look at the food table, which was still growing in sheer size of the amount of food on it. There was enough food to feed 1,000 people both lunch and dinner, before still having enough to feed 100 people breakfast in the morning. That was how much food was being placed on the long tables, and how this had been prepared in such a short amount of time. Naruto chalked it up to magic devils using magic, so that might actually be the real answer. Like a lot. Seraphil seemed to question with a raised eyebrow, before both of them felt a hand go to their shoulders. Suddenly sitting between them was none other than the Sursages, who were wearing a white tuxedo for the event. So, how's the new power couple doing? You know, I was worried at first that you might freak out when Seraphil decided that she wanted you as her husband, but my dear Rias was already supposed to be engaged to you. Well though, I can't say that she is upset about it. Sursages commented, as he looked across the room to see some of the people that had arrived early, one of which was Rias and her peerage, with Lord and Lady Gremory standing and talking to some of the servants, requesting certain foods being made. The Gremorys were really laid back about things not going the way they wanted it to. I can't say I'm upset about it. Cherry Girl is nice and all, but she reminds me too much of my own mother, and I have to hold myself back around her. Honestly, I'm just not a naturally romantic guy, so this kind of instant relationship works alright for me. I just don't really care anymore at this point. Naruto said with a shrug, while Seraphil pointed at him and jumped over Sursages so that she could be sitting in Naruto's lap. Sursages nodded a little, knowing that sometimes things happen for a reason. The fun thing with Rias being 17 now, their parents had to have her approval now to have her marriage contract to Rise Her Phoenix renewed. Now she could honestly refuse the marriage proposal, so she didn't have to worry about getting married to anyone anymore. No amount of complaining from Riser would fix this issue, since the contract between her and him had been broken off, thus it wasn't reinstated, just because she was no longer getting married to the strongest existence. After all, not even Riser of all people was stupid enough to try and fight the strongest existence for Rhea's hand in. The strongest existence stood way above the number 1 in the top strongest list. The guy wouldn't even pick a fight with somebody of his wife's caliber, and Greyfiat didn't even rank in the top 10 strongest. Riser was arrogant, but not stupid enough to risk his life against somebody that was stronger than the top 10 strongest, just because he wanted to have a beautiful redhead. Don't worry Naruto, magical girl Leviathan will take good care of your happiness. Now we just have to get you a costume, and a nickname and somebody to do your hair and makeup when you make guest appearances in my TV show. Seraful said in an excited tone of voice, with Naruto blinking and looking at Sursages, who nodded. Seraful-tan has her own TV show that she does. It is really popular in the underworld with kids, though sometimes the subject matter is around M-rated, not that kids in the underworld aren't used to TV having that stuff. Sursages answered the unasked question, while Seraful hugged Naruto to her with a growing smile on her face. Great, now all that needs to be decided is if you should be a recurring villain, a big baddie, or a mysterious helper that shows up when magical girl Leviathan is in a piccolo. The choices. Seraful gushed, with Naruto looking at Sursages again for a translation. She wants to figure out if you should be a big villain, a mysterious helper, or a simple villain who causes trouble, but never anything too bad. Sursages answered to the television ignorant boy. Naruto had never been a big TV person, since he never had the money to afford getting a good TV. He had a radio, but not a TV. Oh hey cherry girl. Naruto said when he noticed that Rias was standing in front of them, with the air between them turning awkward. Hello Leviathan-sama Uzumaki-sama. It is nice to see you both looking so happy. Rias greeted both of them, as more guests started to show up, with Seraful waving hey to Rias. Hey Rias, how are things? Seraful asked in a loud voice to draw attention to her. Things are well, and how does being a married woman feel? Rias asked Seraful, who hopped from Naruto's lap and stood in front of the taller girl with a grin on her face, before she showed off the ring around her finger. The ring was made out of the purest of gold molded from Naruto's chakra, creation of all things, and sitting in the middle of the ring was a good-sized blue diamond embedded into the gold, with clear diamonds decorating the golden ring all the way around it. It feels amazing. I am glad I didn't wait like stupid person to get married to the person I wanted to get married to. Seraful said with a wink, while Rias looked at Naruto, who raised his hand and showed that he wore a plain golden ring on his finger. He was fine with a plain ring, not liking having a lot of decoration on it. He wasn't that interested in this kind of stuff. Being married isn't that different from dating, I guess, though I don't have experience with that either. My options are really limited, and I would have to be stupid to reject somebody like Seraful. Naruto said, as he gave Seraful a pat on the butt, though doing that was a little awkward for him. Seraful liked this kind of attention from him, though for some reason. She wasn't the kind of person that believed intimate contact was restricted to the bedroom, and all displays of affection were okay even in public. She was actually wiggling her hips like she was expecting him to do more. She pouted when he didn't. This is my man now, so don't expect me to share Rias. Seraful said when she noticed the conflicted look in Rias' eyes. She knew that devils like to form harems, but Naruto was mostly human it would seem. He had a distinct non-human presence about him, as well that led her to believe somewhere inside of him he wasn't completely human, not a devil, angel, yokai, or even fallen angel, but not human either. Since the 4 great Satans weren't allowed to have harems, then Naruto wouldn't up and form a harem either. He was married to a Satan, so the rules applied to him, as well to keep him from turning a Satan into a harem member, and nothing more. Don't worry, I was just a little jealous. You seem to have found love so fast that it makes me wonder if I will ever have something like that. Rias said with a slightly sad look, before she turned around and walked away so that she could go talk to some other devils. Well, that was awkward, she didn't even say hi to me. Want me to bring you back any drinks? Sursages asked, with Naruto gesturing to the glass of wine that he had next to him, and the glass of soda that was next to Seraful. He wasn't going to let Seraful get drunk, while he didn't really have to worry about drinking, thanks to Seiken, who was good at medically purging alcohol from his user. Being the Jinchuriki of all the tailed beasts really did have its perks. For our wedding night, I was thinking about cameras. I want to see what we look like when we seal the deal all the way. Seraful randomly brought up the topic of sex, with Naruto spitting out some wine that he had just taken a sip of. What? Naruto questioned with a raised eyebrow. Sex, we are married, and I am sexually attracted to you, and I think you are sexually attracted to me, so let's get our first time together on video. I want to send a copy to Sotan. Seraful said with a large smile on her face, with Naruto blinking and looking at her. Who? He questioned, wondering just who she was talking about. Sona Citri, my little adorable sister. She is so fun to tease and embarrass, I bet she would have the perfect reaction to the video. I wish she showed up, but I don't think she even knows about what is happening yet. Seraphol said with a pout as she looked around and saw a whole bunch of people standing and talking to each other. Naruto felt all of the clones pop at once when they were finished helping and finishing the prep work for the party, now that a ton of people were showing up. This is a really sweet wine. It is pretty good. I don't really like bitter things, so sweet alcohol for once is pretty nice. Naruto said with a nod as he took another sip, only for Seraphol to kiss him full on the mouth and suck the wine from his mouth while also taking the kiss and turning it into a French kiss. By the end of the kiss, Naruto was blushing a deep red and looking away from the grinning Seraphol, who had no qualms about kissing the guy she just married on the same day that she met him. Love worked quickly for this girl, very quickly. I like it better when you drink it first, Seraphol said, showing that she was not ignorant to intimacy and other such acts that couples did either. They were both surprised when a Naruto clone showed up in front of them with 2 plates filled to the brim with food. Didn't you pop or something? Naruto asked with a raised eyebrow. I am the clone of the clone. The clone made me before popping and told me to get you 2 the good stuff before it was gone. Here you go, and now I die. The clone of Naruto said as he placed the food on the armrest of the throne and popped right after. Naruto surprisingly didn't get back the memories of the clone, since it was the clone of the clone. It had no connection to him now that the clone that made this clone was gone. Your clone has good taste, try some of this, Seraphol said, as she used a small fork to hold out a piece of sushi for Naruto to bite, and he took it into his mouth before his mind exploded with flavor. Wow, this is really good. You people sure have great cooks working for you, Naruto commented as he was about to eat from his own plate before Seraphol opened her mouth wide. It took him a moment before he caught the hint and used the fork on his plate for feeding her while she fed him from her plate. Naruto saw that they were attracting a lot of attention, just something that Seraphol wanted, as she adored being the center of attention. People were actually chatting it up as they looked at the new power couple. Then it really hit Naruto. He had gotten himself married to a total babe. Not only that, but because of him, Kagaya was sealed away in a dimension he sealed off. He was married, and there was no more Kagaya to worry about. Not only that, but tonight he was having sex. Life was good. The party had been amazingly boring other than him getting to bond with Seraphol in the form of eating together and just talking. Naruto had met the other 2 Satans during the party, but neither of them really struck him as people he would be really close to. Naruto had been introduced to many of the lords and ladies of the remaining families, still part of the 72 pillar families. That was boring as hell as well, considering that he was talking to a bunch of boring sticks in the mud. The most asked question, not directly of course, but implied, was when Naruto and Seraphol were going to have a child together. That was just fucking rude, asking when they would be having a child without knowing what their plans were. It was like people were only excited that they were married now, because they were looking forward to the strong child that they would produce. Hey, do you have that camera set up yet? Seraphol asked, as she looked up from the magazine that she was reading. She and Naruto were still fully clothed at that moment, with him actually wearing a small headband around his eyes with eye holes cut out so that he could see. Naruto was actually holding the magazine, considering the fact that at the moment Seraphol was rather tied up at the moment. She was loosely chained up to the wall with adamantine chains, so that she couldn't break out with brute strength. She could still move around a good bit, but she was waiting for Surziches to finish setting up the camera. Once the camera was set up, they would have Naruto clones standing at the various different cameras, and making sure to get some really good shots of Naruto and Seraphol going at it. Surziches wasn't going to watch in person, though if he somehow got his hands on the tape, Naruto would blame Leviathan for giving it to him. Naruto already knew that whatever was going to happen on this would be seen by Seraphol's younger sister apparently, with the very thought of this Sona Citri seeing this tape getting a nosebleed from Seraphol. Naruto married a pervert, it was official. Yeah, all good to go have fun, Surziches said, as he activated his teleportation circle and vanished from the room, leaving Naruto alone with Seraphol and half a dozen clones all with cameras in their hands, as they looked excited to see what their boss was going to do. Naruto tossed the magazine underneath the bed before he looked at the camera with a nervous look in his eyes. He was nervous about this whole situation. He had always been his time training to become stronger, but he never really studied much about sex before. Sure, he knew a few things that he picked up from listening to others about the subject, others being the whores that would pretty much try and get into his pants when he was on a training trip with the perverted sage. He never actually let the whores have his virginity, and from what he knew of this devil culture, most devils actually didn't sleep around succubi were sluts, yes, but most devils considered having sex before to be an insult to their future husband. Seraphol was a pervert, so she knew the arts of seduction pretty well, apparently very well, from how she had bragged to him. The light on the camera told Naruto that the camera was on. Ninja God Naruto, no matter what you do to me, I, magical girl Leviathan, will never say where the secret water magic is located. Seraphol shouted at him, getting right into character, as easily as breathing. Naruto was taken aback for a second at how easy it seemed for her to get into character and make up her own lines on the fly like that, without being visibly nervous about the sex they were about to have. Naruto himself was going through some mind-wrecking nerve issues. After all, what guy wasn't nervous in a situation where his first time was being recorded, and his wife was this beautiful bombshell of a woman? Well, it was a good thing he was pretty good at showing off and acting, so Naruto put on a neutral face and got down on one knee and looked at Serapho while grabbing her chin. My dear Leviathan, I will get all I want from you, as ninjas don't play by the same morals after all. I will use whatever I need to get to the secret water magic you have. Make it easy on yourself, and tell me now or else. Naruto said, as he roughly grabbed her by the throat and lifted her up a little higher off her knees and pushed her against the wall. He held back his physical strength, of course, but he trusted in her durability to not be affected by the fact he pushed her up against the wall with enough force to crack the wooden wall behind her. Never, magical girl Leviathan will never give you what you want. Serapho shouted out before Naruto reached out and grabbed the front of her top. He yanked hard on her top and actually ripped the top completely off, as her breasts bounced wildly at being freed for a few moments. Her breasts looked even larger out of their confines, and her nipples were a very pale pink color that was only a few shades darker than her skin. They were the perfect shape, both her nipples and her boobs. Very well, but let it be known I warn you today, magical girl Leviathan will meet her match. Naruto said, still in character, as he roughly grabbed her left breast and started to grip it while tweaking her nipple with his thumb and index finger. Serapho held back a small moan at the slight stimulation, while Naruto blushed a little with his face away from the camera as he looked at her and realized what he was doing. Serapho forced a hard look on her face as she acted like she was glaring at him, though even she had a small blush on her cheeks from the sexual stimulation. Good will always prevail over evil, Serapho said, before she was silenced when her skirt was ripped off to show her very skimpy white panties. Naruto tossed aside the remains of her skirt before he got down to her level and forced a kiss on her. Serapho put up a struggle against the kiss as she forced herself to water her own eyes a little. Truthfully, she enjoyed the kiss, but for the show she was going to put on a bit of a play for herself to enjoy her own hentai rape scene later. She wanted to watch herself getting raped without having to actually get raped. It was one of her many small fetishes. She wanted to do some serious roleplay, and her getting raped by the ninja god Naruto as a scene was just perfect for both her first time, her fetish, and something that she could embrace her sister with. Naruto forced his tongue into her mouth in an inexperienced, but not that bad, kiss that let Serapho taste Naruto, and she was not against the taste, even though he tasted like sushi at the moment. Serapho and Naruto stopped the kiss moments later, with a trail of saliva connecting their mouths. Naruto grabbed Serapho before he stood up to his full height and looked down at her. That has failed. These chains holding you are the unbreakable metal adamantine. You will not escape without first telling me the location of the secret water magic. Naruto started in a cold tone as he grabbed her face and forced her mouth to open up as he grabbed her tongue. Naruto pointed over to the other side of the room where a transformed clone to look like a random person was tied up and blindfolded. It really added to the drama if there was a hostage involved to really show the evil behind what was happening on camera, because right now Serapho was loving what was happening. You monster, magical girl Leviathan will stop you, and free Serapho said, before she let out a gasp when she saw Naruto unzip his pants to show his flaccid banana to her. She looked up at him with wide eyes, not because of size, because honestly the size of a flaccid banana didn't really translate to the size of an erect one. No, she gasped because magical girl Leviathan was supposed to gasp. She herself wasn't surprised at what was happening, though she was surprised that Naruto wasn't already hard at this point. What? This was his first time, he was nervous, and he was on camera. I will kill the hostage if you do try anything, now Leviathan sucks it, Naruto said, as he forced her face closer to his crotch so that her cheek was pressing up against it. She pulled her head back and glared up at him as she sent a look towards the hostage before she leaned forward and engulfed his cock with her mouth. Naruto placed a hand on her head as she licked and sucked on the flaccid penis in her mouth, but her sucking soon changed the flaccid state into a hardened state, with his cock soon reaching its full size and pushing against the back of her throat. She was surprised by the sudden hardening and hadn't been able to swallow his cock to start deep-throating him. She ended up pulling away from his cock and coughing a little with her eyes a bit moist from the coughing and choking. She looked up, but she had her satisfied look that he wasn't a shrimp, just because he was of, more than likely, Asian ancestry. Nothing against Asians, but even she knew that the national average in Asia was a bit smaller than in other parts of the world. Not by much, and by no means very humiliating, since it was only normally an inch or so shorter than in other parts of the world. The fact of the matter was, she hadn't been expecting as much from a 17-year-old who hadn't reached his max size, that was from Asian descent. Naruto was normal, and actually rather respectable for his age, with room for improvement, meaning that he wasn't so freakishly big that she was afraid that she would be split in two, but also not so small he would be on the end of a joke. He was a good 5.4 inches long with a good width that wasn't out of the ordinary. She was surprised that he had no foreskin to him, since by culture many, 2 out of 3, Japanese men didn't have their foreskin snipped. Is he even really Asian? Siraful wondered in her head. She had Caucasian skin with bright golden blonde hair, with sparkling blue eyes, with his only real normal Japanese trait being his height, which was shorter than she would expect from the races that he looked like though he was only 17. So his height was expected to grow with time. If not for his name, and the language he spoke and wrote in naturally, then she wouldn't have ever guessed that he was Asian. She noticed that he looked smaller when flaccid, but longer when hard, meaning he was a grower, not a shower. She had no problems with any of this. You vile fiend, the ultimate magical girl Leviathan, will find a way to Siraful started, before she was forced to suck on the cock again, as it was forced into her mouth. She glared up at Naruto, who sent a nod of his head towards the hostage. She acted like she was reluctant to suck, but actually enjoyed hearing him make a noise in the back of his throat, and see his back straighten a bit, as she started to bob her head back and forth, taking a good amount of cock inside of her mouth, as she sucked, before moving back, and letting all but the head of his cock out. Inexperience finally won though, when she was given no warning when she felt semen start to splurt into her mouth, and onto her tongue. She swallowed the salty tasting semen without much trouble, before she felt him pull out when he stopped spurting in her mouth. She found that despite not being sweet like she would have liked, she wasn't against the strangely salty flavor. There's no escape for you Leviathan, now give me what I want to know, this is your final chance. Naruto said harshly, as he got down on one knee, and reached towards her panties. She squeezed her legs tightly together before he could, but he pushed his hand in between her legs, and started to rub her crotch with the palm of his hand. He grabbed the sides of her panties, before he pulled them up, so that her legs separated in shock when he gave her the front wedgie, so that her panties became tighter against her lower lips, and around the cloth. Naruto pulled up harder, before he loosened up, before coming harder than before when he played with her. Leviathan will never give you what you want. No matter what you do, the magical girl Leviathan will never give in to torture. Siraful stated her thought upline, before she was picked up, and had her wrists tied up with the chains, so that she couldn't move her hands or arms very much. She was then pushed up against the wall so that her face and chest were pressing roughly, and her boobs mushed with her nipples rubbing against the cracks on the wall. You were warned, let's see how Leviathan responds to this. Naruto said, as he raised his hand up, and brought it down roughly onto her ass, making it jiggle with a loud smacking sound. Siraful squeaked, as if she actually squealed at the spank that he gave her. Naruto reached around, and stuffed a finger in her panties, before finding out that she had her panties completely drenched with fluid. Naruto brought up his finger to her mouth, and forced the wet finger into her mouth, so that she could suck it clean. He didn't know what it was, but seeing her with her gloves, thigh socks, and hat on with nothing else but skimpy panties which were soon ripped off to show her beautiful ass, and soaking wet elytron, was an amazingly hot sight to behold. Naruto lined himself up with her elytron, and Siraful closed her eyes in genuine nervousness, as she prepared to take him into herself. She was a virgin, and she still had her maiden barrier more than likely. She was a fighter, and did a lot of physical activity. She felt Naruto grab both sides of her hips to get ready for what was to come, and she closed her eyes. Just in time for them to jolt open when Naruto pushed into her in one thrust, his fully erect cock pushing into her all the way to the base. She let out a loud moan at how good it felt to have something go so deeply into her, much deeper than her fingers could, and his cock was thicker around than her fingers. She pushed her forehead against the wall, and a genuine blush appeared on her face at just how good it felt to have a cock inside of her. Her leg was forced up and over Naruto's shoulder by him, while she was turned so that her shoulder and cheek pressed against the wall, giving the camera the perfect view of him penetrating her, and of not only her breasts, but also her panting face. Then he started to thrust into her, and she gasped. The entering felt good, then him pulling out and pushing back, and when she got used to having something bigger than her fingers. Her eyes closed, and she took a deep breath to cool herself, while Naruto thrust into her, and used one of his hands to stimulate her clit. Siraful gasped loudly, as her eyes shot open, and she let out a shuddering moan that echoed through the room. She didn't come from that, but she had been close to it, and was growing closer to coming with each thrust. Where is the secret water magic Leviathan? Naruto said when he stopped groaning, and adjusted to being inside of her, and it hit him that Naruto just lost his virginity on camera. The pervy sage would be so proud. Never, you will never, oh. Siraful called out when he pushed in all the way, and reached, as far in, as he could go, about half an inch from her womb. He pushed himself even farther in, completely squishing their crotches together, and pushed even deeper into her sweet spot, while also lightly touching the entrance into her womb. She was glad that he wasn't big enough to smash against her womb, because most guys didn't seem to realize that didn't feel very good. Hitting, and forcing the womb open hurt more than it felt good. Her sweet spot was about an inch from her womb, but not her womb itself. Combined with the fact that not much later Naruto leaned forward and kissed her ribs, another erotic spot for her, and she had trouble keeping herself from coming on the spot. Naruto's spiky hair brushed up against the pits of her underarms, and he leaned forward more while thrusting, and started to nip at the sides of her moving breasts. Her breasts bounced with each thrust into her cunt, and soon her mouth was captured by him when he realized he wouldn't be getting to her breasts as easily with his mouth. Instead he settled for fondling her breasts. Then, Naruto came with a groan inside of her. Deciding to make a show of it, she wrapped her legs around his waist, and pulled him in closer with her hands still tied up with the chains. She reached forward with her mouth, and grabbed her wand from his belt with a good show of flexibility. Magical girl Leviathan magical eyes spell. She said through grit teeth as she froze, and shackled around her wrists, and shattered the adamantine shackles, which were actually just regular iron. With her hands free, Naruto allowed her to push him down to the ground with her on top of him. She had her hands on his chest, only for her to shudder when Naruto reached up, and knocked the wand out of her hand, and pushed her onto her back. So you broke out of her shackles. I underestimated you, Leviathan. You are much smarter than I gave you credit for, but without you you put a child before the might of the ninja god Naruto. Naruto said, as he pulled his now soft cock out of her, with some semen dripping out of her vagina, and landing on the carpet under them. Sirafo looked away from him, and he leaned down, and forced another kiss onto her. Naruto forced her up, and into the doggy-style position, so that she was on all fours, with her ass facing towards him. Sirafo already had a light sheen of sweat on her body, and gasped when she looked back, and saw that Naruto was stroking his cock to full mast again. You will never get me to tell you how to find the secret water magic, Sirafo said, as Naruto spanked her ass again. I think I know where to find it already, my dear. The secret water magic can only be learned by making a magical girl cum, Naruto declared, with Sirafo playing along, and gasping while looking at him with wide eyes. How did you, Sirafo asked, before she moaned when he shoved his now hard again cock inside of her tight womanhood. You just told me, now all I have to do is make you come, and the secrets of the ultimate water magic will be mine, Naruto said with a grin on his face, as he started to thrust into her currently very sensitive elytron. She was being pushed back and forth with each thrust, her breasts swing as she did so. She closed her eyes, and made a show of controlling her breathing, before she shuddered, and finally came at the same time as Naruto. As she collapsed forward with liquid squirting out of her elytron for a moment, before she breathed out, and very deeply. Naruto closed his eyes, and made a show of standing up, as he created water around him, and made it spin around him, before changing into the shape of a dragon. Finally, the ultimate water magic is mine, Naruto shouted out with an evil laugh. Then cut. Good job, Naruto, you really got me good there, Sirafo said, as she started to stand up, as well with a smile on her face. So what did I do for the first time? Naruto asked with a grin, as he looked at the sperm dripping out of her, and she cracked her neck. For the acting 8 out of 10, for the sex also 8 out of 10. It's great, but needs a little work, but I think you will be great with some experience. Now that the video is done, time for another round, Sirafo said, as she pushed Naruto onto the bed, as the clones dispelled themselves now that the filming part was over with. Sirafo landed on top of Naruto moments later, before she grinned down at him with him grinning back at her. They weren't sleeping tonight. Thanks for watching my video. Leave a like if you enjoyed my video, and also do consider subscribing.